Hello YouTube world. Today we have yet another video. It's been some time, but we'll be going over Intel corporations, and they're going for $24.80 a share. At closing hours, they're up 1.30. After hours, 0.26. Um, this company hasn't paid a dividend yield in about over a year. And they're basically they help with like computers, technology, different things in that nature. Um, I wanted to go over this stock because it shows a little bit of a resentment as far as the red area. But overall, this is a pretty good stock, something to keep your eyes into. Now let's dive right into it. Even though the market's not open today, they shall be open tomorrow. But once we pay attention to this middle line right here, it shows you that for this opening week, the opening hours, it should be pretty good to go, right? Above this middle line in between 24.81, 24.36, right? Green is to buy, red is to sell. Let's take a look to see how we do for the rest of the week. Now, this is where I was kind of informing you guys about how the lines can be all the way down here, up way high, and then come all the way down. Now, the tariffs is still in effect. When it comes to a lot of different companies, they're still in effect, right? But this is the one that's kind of like a little twisted looking. Now, let's see what it looks like for the rest of the month. As you can see, this line right here is above the middle, which is a good indicator, but it takes a deep and a long time of this area down here. Now, it could be, because it has to do like a lot of reset, but in my conclusion, it has a lot to do with the company itself. For the next 3 months, as you can see right here, green is to buy, but red is to sell, right? But the 6 months marks, okay, I made a mistake. But as you can see, it's definitely above the 22 line in which you wanted to go and to see, right? Green is to buy, red is to sell. But always pay attention to this middle line right here, because that middle line will determine if it's going to be a good stock or a bad stock. Now, let's take a look. For the next year, remember green is to buy, red is to sell. Doesn't look too bad at all because it's always above this middle line. Even if there's a lot of things going on down here, the most important thing that you can do is to pay attention to what it's doing above this line, above the 23, right here. It's where you want to pay close attention to. Now for the next, okay, now this is where I was talking about how the lines was going everywhere. It wasn't enough research to really make the stock as strong as previous ones, like up here, because all the lines that I was doing, it had to basically break it down somewhere and somehow. It had to go through a pushback area, because of how the lines was going. It was really like shriggly. Um, and so for the next, let's see, the next 5 years, again, it's getting better in this area. Even though it still shows a pushback down here, but overall, it's above the that line 44. So there's not a whole lot to mention down here, but up here, even though it's red, but that kind of is a strong indicator, and that little small point right there that it could and it will show some kind of positive sign. Let's take a look. I was wrong again. Let's see this next tail. Again, there's just not enough, buying power right here on top of the tariffs, on top of everything that is going on. Again, even though this is a prediction, for the next 10 years, but it still showed, positive results. You can never ignore that part, right? Even if you were to go back 6 months, this area right here, it wasn't a straight solid across the board. It had a lot of dips and a lot of like uncertainty areas, but the overall performance should not be that bad at all. In fact, um, it's above the 38 and in between the 57, and it shows a great push right here. Now remember, there is a line right here that kind of separates the stocks from being a positive or a negative stock. Green is to buy, red is to sell. But as you can see right here, it definitely shows a positive results for this stock. Now, will a lot of things be different if there was no tariffs? Of course, you kind of like taxing a tax on a tax. But at the end of the day, Nextel Corporation, I would definitely keep my eyes out. There may be a few areas where it might not be too sure, but the overall performance, no doubt, will definitely show some results. I would like to say thanks for tuning in. You guys are the best. Until next time, keep investing.